Hi guys, welcome back to the Fieldcraft Survival channel. Today we're going to talk about Ballistics 5. This is the fifth in a series of classes, and up until this point we've built each class off each other. So today we are going to talk about the ballistic calculator. Alright, so if you're serious about long range shooting and you don't have one of these, you really need to get one. The first time I saw a ballistic calculator was 2006. And it was in the form of an old Palm Pilot, and that's what we used. At that time, it did not pick up atmospherics, so we had to buy a Kestrel weather meter as well, and then manually input all the atmospheric data into the Palm Pilot. And that was on a program called A-Track. Now, we've since morphed, and some smart person decided to put the ballistics chip inside the weather meter, so you got one piece of kit, all right? And this thing has continued to grow and evolve over the last, 10, 15 years to the point of where it is right now. The one that I use is this 5700 Elite with applied ballistics software in it, and it's a really cool piece of kit. Now, if you have one of these and you're trying to follow along with the class, I would encourage you not to do that. So I would encourage you to watch the first time, listen and kind of get a feel for the information we're talking about, and then the second time you can follow along. If you try to follow along the first time, you're kind of half listening and half executing, and you end up like half-assing both of them and not picking it up. I've been on that side where I had to learn this, and I've taught it a bunch of times, so I kind of know the pitfalls. So we're going to walk through step by step by step. We've covered most of the stuff in the first 4 classes, but if I hit something I think needs to be reiterated or better explained, then we'll go to the whiteboard and we'll talk about it real quick, and then we'll come back to the ballistic calculator. This one I have in my hand has been used by students, so it's a little beat up, but I've reset it back to factory settings, so you will it'll look the same as yours once you take it out of the box. All right, let's go to the Kestrel. All right, so as we look at the Kestrel, we're going to look at, we have the sunlight readable face here. This is your anemometer to read the wind. This is your temperature sensor, humidity. This is a data plug that you probably won't use if you have a Bluetooth version, which I would highly recommend. This is your on-off switch right here. Here is your options and back button. This turns on the backlight, which you'll see me do just so you can see it a little better. It also has a double click feature that goes to a weather screen, which is really cool. This is your capture button for capturing your direction of fire. Then you have up, down, left, right, left, enter. Okay, and that's about it. Now, it's got tons of features. So when you open up this first, you'll see it on the main ballistics screen. This Kestrel has 3 modes. It has a ballistics mode, an easy mode, and a weather mode. All right, and we're going to go through those one at a time. Let's go to ballistics mode first. Again, enter, your executor's right here. So if you look at it right now, it says E and W. That's not east and west, that's elevation and windage. So elevation is how much elevation you're giving in your scope. In mils, in minutes of angle, in inches, in clicks, okay? W is your windage, and you can have 2 windage readings in here, and you decide what they are. Now, they do not change in real time just because you have your Kestrel up in the wind. They're presets that you determined. Top right corner there, you have a little window with a 1 in it. That's for your target card. You can build 10 targets in here if you're on the same range all the time and store them. All right, as you go down, you'll see TGT, which is target, and that is your target data. To the right of that, you'll see 3 numbers. That's the direction of fire in degrees. And to the right of that is your distance, or your range in yards. All right, if you scroll right, that distance will change. It'll go up. Scroll left, it'll go down. Okay? Now, if you hit enter on target, you have a couple of different settings here. You have this quick set for predetermined targets. The target range, like I said, you can scroll right and scroll left and change that. Now, if you want to mill targets, and milling targets is measuring with your scope to determine their range if you don't have a rangefinder. If you want to do that, instead of pulling out a Mil-Dart Master or doing a bunch of math, you can just use the Kestrel, right? So you can hit in TR and hit enter. You decide whether you want your units in yards, meters, and you go down to estimate and you hit enter. Now, assume I'm looking at a target and I determined that that target is 15 inches wide or tall, or 20 inches. Let's make it 20 inches on this one. So I know my target is 20 inches tall. When I measure it in my scope, it measures at 1.5 mils. Okay, that gives me a range of 370 yards, which it'll automatically input here. Okay, once I hit back, do you want to accept that? Yes. It's going to change my target range to 370 yards here. Okay, that's a way of milling and using your Kestrel. DOF is direction of fire. You can capture your direction of fire, but you have to calibrate your compass first, and you would use that using this button. Once your compass is calibrated, you would just hold it up, point it towards the target, and capture your direction of fire. Okay? IDEG is your inclination angle. If you're shooting up or downhill at high angles, you're going to have to adjust your data. The Kestrel will automatically adjust it if you just tell it what the angle is. Cosine is a cosine indicator that you attach to the side of your rifle that will give you a cosine number as opposed to an inclination degree, and it can use that to calculate your angle. Target speed. Okay, so if a target speed is 4 miles an hour, I would scroll right there, but it's often very difficult to determine what speed a target is going at. So I can also hit enter. I can change the units to feet per second, meters per second, kilometers per hour, knots, and miles per hour. Okay, so we're going to keep it at miles per hour, and we're going to scroll down and hit estimate. All right, so let's say I'm on a range shooting a competition. This actually happened to me. I'm at 400 yards, and I know I'm going to get a mover at 400 yards, but I have no idea how fast the mover is going to be moving. So the two big factors in shooting a moving target are the range to the target, which determines the time of flight, and the speed of the target. All right, so what I can do, imagine there's two target markers there determining, lane 5 and lane 6. So those target markers between lane 5 and lane 6, I can measure those. And let's say they measure at 3 mils wide. I just measured out with my scope or my spotting scope. Okay, once I come down and I hit time, I can wait until that first target pops, and I hit start, and I let it run, and it gets to the other target board, I hit stop. Okay, it means it ran for 4.5 seconds, and once I go out, it'll tell me exactly what the lead is to shoot that target at that range, at that target speed, in these atmospheric conditions, and everything will match up. And I will show you in a little bit where to find that lead, because there's only one spot that I know of where you can find it. Okay, down. Wind direction is the direction the wind is coming from. 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and that'll determine the cosine of the wind. Wind speed 1, you can put in anything you want. A lot of people put wind speed 1 at 5, wind speed 2 at 10. And these are just brackets that you can use to kind of help you do the math. That wind speed will not change as the wind blows. It blows your anemometer. All right, so that's target. Let's go to wind. Again, the same thing. Right now we have wind coming from 6 o'clock, 5 miles an hour. All right, and you can change those parameters in here. Okay, back out. Gun. All right, this is where you set up your gun. Now, you can build your gun on your Kestrel and push it to your phone app, or build it on your phone and push it to your Kestrel. It's actually easier to build it on your phone, and we'll do that in a minute. Okay, we just did wind. Let's talk about gun. So when you scroll down to gun and you hit enter and you go up one and hit gun, you can change the name of your gun to whatever you need to. All right, that's my freaking Surgeon 300 Win Mag. Okay. back out. Muzzle velocity, you can scroll right and scroll left and change it to whatever it is based on your chronograph or if you trued your gun. All right, so we just talked about muzzle velocity. When you hit the enter button on muzzle velocity, you can go in and you can get into what's called Calc MV. Calc MV is calculate your muzzle velocity. So you can do this two ways. You can do it with a chronograph, or you can do it by truing or using the Calc MV feature. Now, often you'll see a muzzle velocity on the box of ammo you have. That depends, it may or may not be right, depending on the barrel length, okay? So when you go into Calc MV, what it's going to tell you is when you calculate your muzzle velocity or you true your muzzle velocity, you're looking to engage a target that is within 10% of where your bullet goes transonic. So if you think back to previous classes, that's my bullet flight, right? I have supersonic, and I have subsonic, faster than the speed of sound, faster than the speed of sound. In here, there's a transition period called transonic. Okay, transonic is 1,340 feet per second of muzzle velocity at sea level, okay, for all bullets, right? Now, that actual distance on the ground is going to be different for each bullet depending on the muzzle velocity, depending on the BC and some other factors, right? So let's say I'm doing a 308, so I'm hitting this spot at around 730 yards. Okay, now, once I go into Calc MV, it will tell me, based on the gun I have built, based on the BC and all that stuff, and based on density altitude, it'll tell me find a target between 700 and 800, something like that. So it has to be 10% of transonic, but the Calc MV feature will tell you that. All right, so I put a target out there. This is my target. It's a IPSC target. And he's at 740 yards, okay? Now I range him, I get a really accurate range on him, there's no guessing, and I know he's at 740 yards. So I'll punch that in, and let's say my muzzle velocity, what I think it's 2,600 feet per second, but I'm not sure. All right, so what I'm trying to do with Calc MV is figure out exactly what the speed of the bullet is. And all we're going to do is reverse engineer the algorithm back to the gun. All right? So I put in 2,600 feet per second. At that range, it tells me 5 mils elevation, let's just say. And I'm making these numbers up. So I shoot 5 mils, and I watch the round go there. Okay? I'm like, dang, that's way off. So let me make sure. I shoot another one, it goes here. All right, I was actually aiming for a very distinctive point on the center of the chest, maybe a white dot on the chest, okay? So I'm going to take my spotting scope and I'm going to measure from where it hit to where it needed to hit, which means I need to elevate the gun, let's say 1 mil. Okay, so instead of 5 mils, I need 6 mils. That means the bullet's going slower than I thought, because if it's going slower than 2,600 feet per second, I would need to give it more elevation to compensate for that drop. Okay, so now I'm shooting 6 mils instead of 5, and I send one, and I hit here. I'm like, okay. I send another one, I hit here. Don't worry about the wind, left and right, but I'm looking to get that definite line. I'm like, let me make sure, let me do a headshot. And I take a headshot, and I smoke it right in the middle of the head. That means, based on where the bullet hit, remapping that algorithm back to the gun, what I need to do is true at 6 mils. So you go into Calc MV, and it will tell you originally, based on your 2,600 feet per second estimate, that you need 5 mils. You change that to 6 mils, and enter and save it. It'll recalibrate this, probably down to like 25, 40 or something like that. The muzzle velocity will drop down. It'll fix your muzzle velocity based on where you're actually hitting, and that's why truing is actually more accurate than the chronograph, because it's taking that average muzzle velocity all the way down range, and you're recalibrating it, right? So I hit accept, boom, and it'll change my muzzle velocity back to 25, 40. I'm good to go. DM is drag model. You have G1, G7, or this system has a bunch of guns already built in it, and you can do custom drag model, which I highly encourage. and we'll set that up on our phone. Target card sets up targets that are already on, like if you have 10 targets on a range you shoot all the time, you can pre-plug them in here. Range card, we skipped over. You can change range card increments from, I think, 10 on the low end, 20, 25, 50, and 100. Okay? And what it will do, it'll give you the range here, the elevation for that shot here, and then as you go across, let's start here, wind 1, and that's based on the presets you put in there. Wind 2, the lead for the mover that we put in there, that we timed going from one spot to the other. I told you there's one place you can find it, it's right here. The trace, this is how high the bullet will fly, and you're watching that bullet break through the atmosphere. This is show you at that range, this is where you should be looking for trace. Remaining velocity gives you the speed of the bullet at that range, okay? Remaining energy gives you the foot-pounds of energy at that range. So at 400 yards, it's coming in at 3,583 foot-pounds of energy. But if we go all the way up to 1,000, that drops quite a bit, okay? Same with remaining velocity. Like the muzzle velocity of this thing is probably like 2,600 or something. 2,573, that's at 100 yards. But if I scroll down and I go to 1,000 yards, 1,860, okay? Scroll right, remaining energy, time of flight, that's how long the bullet takes to get to that spot. The spin drift, you can calculate spin drift for that shot. Coriolis, wind 1, wind 2, okay? That's your range card. Accuracy first, hit that. Accuracy first has a couple of really cool settings in it. The first one being quick wind. That's your quick wind number for this gun, okay? So if you go down to wind dots, you can calculate that. And based on the gun you built, it will tell you what each wind dot is worth in your Tremor 3 reticle, okay? Speed drop, we'll go to that on the board. But speed drop's a way to calculate what your speed drop number is and help you memorize your data. Back out. Aerodynamic jump is a feature. I think we talked about it already. But if you have a really heavy wind coming from left to right or right to left, it's going to have a horizontal component. A vertical component to your elevation at range. This will tell you what that number is. The 12-inch drill is a speed shooting formula designed by Todd Hodnett, accuracy first. All right, so we just looked at the accuracy first page, and it's got a bunch of different windows in there. I'm going to talk about those right now. Now, accuracy first is Todd Hodnett's company out of Texas. Todd has spearheaded a lot of these programs, and this is all kind of proprietary information, but I got permission from Todd to teach it. So once you go into accuracy first, you have to be in mills and you have to turn accuracy first on. But once you go in there, you'll see a couple of windows. The first one is quick wind. Quick wind refers to the Todd's quick wind formula. And based on whatever gun you have built, your quick wind number, like for the 308, it's 4, 8, 12, 16 miles an hour because you work in brackets of 4 miles an hour. For a 6.5 Creedmoor, it's brackets of 5 miles an hour. For other guns, it might be 6 miles an hour. But just so you know exactly what that number is for your quick wind formula, you'll get it here. Under accuracy first, you go into quick wind, hit calculate, and it will tell you what your quick wind number is. Now, if it's 4.2, just use 4. If it's 5.9, just use 6, 12, 18, 24. Okay, so that's quick wind. The next one down below that is wind dot. That is the wind dot value for your Tremor 3 reticle. Okay, so the Tremor 3 reticle has wind dots in it, and each one of those wind dots are calibrated, can be calibrated for a different bullet. So if you go in there and you've already built your gun, you've already trued it, you've already done all that stuff, and you hit calculate, it'll tell you what each one of those wind dots are worth based on your density altitude, based on your bullet and your ballistic coefficient and all that stuff, okay? Super easy to have, or super good to have. The next one down is speed drop. It's problematic and tough to remember all your data at all times. We used to remember it like a phone number, but it was a pain. But if you go into speed drop, after you've built your gun and you hit calculate, it'll come up with a speed drop number. And it might say something like from 248 yards to 870 yards, it is 2. Okay, whatever that number is. I'm making these numbers up. And where he got that from is this. So, and again, I made these numbers up. This is the range, and this is my hold in mils to take that shot. So if you look at 300 yards, I'm holding 1 mil of elevation. At 400, I'm holding 2.3, 500, 2. This is just the way my data came out. Now, I can do this without the Kestrel. Kestrel is more accurate, but if I look at that data right there, and I made it easy so it'd be easier to teach, but if I look at, I'm looking for a number that I can subtract from the range that gives me my hold, okay? So in this case, my number is 2, all right? And that's what this will give you in your speed drop on the Kestrel. So at 300 yards, if I take 2 from the range, don't worry about that, these are different types of numbers, but these are different values. If I take 2 from the range, I get 1. My hold is 1 mil. If I take 2 from 400, I get 2. The actual hold is 2.3. 0.3 of a mil is a minute of angle. That's 4 inches. It's a speed formula. It's close enough. Okay? At 5, I take 2 away, and it would be 3. This is 2.9, third of a minute of angle. Okay? At 6, I take 2 away, 4. At 7, I take 2 away, 4.9, third of a minute of angle. At 8, I take 2 away, 6.1. At 9, I take 2 away and I get 7. So you can write your ranges down like this, and you can figure out what your speed drop number is yourself, or you can go into speed drop on the accuracy first page on the Kestrel, go down and calculate. After you've built your gun, after you've got your muzzle velocity, your BC and all that stuff, hit calculate and it will tell you what your speed drop number is. Aerodynamic jump, we talked about that. If this is my rifle and I have a heavy wind coming left to right or right to left, it's going to have a vertical component on your elevation. This will tell you what your AJ value is based on all the parameters you've put in. And then the 12-inch drill was a speed drill designed for the military, and it's based on, well, it's actually based on the head and shoulders, but it can be a 12-inch plate, but from the top of the head to the shoulders is 12 inches. But let's say we call it a 12-inch plate. If I mill that or measure it, it tells me what I would have to add to that to get the 12-inch drill. So for a 308, my number is 10, right? So if I measure this and it's 0.8, I would have to add 2 to get to 10. So I'd hold 2 mils and take the shot. Okay. So these are the windows inside. Quick wind gives you a quick wind number for the short wind formula designed by Accuracy First. The wind dot gives you the wind dot value for your Trimmer 3 reticle. The speed drop gives you a mechanism to remember all your data ever. So if my speed drop number is 2, anytime I'm at 700 yards, 5 mils, bang. Oh, I'm at 300 yards, 1 mil, bang. I'm at 900 yards, 7 mils, bang. I always remember my data. AJ, vertical component to heavy wind close to the barrel, that'll give you that. 12-inch drill is a speed shooting formula as well. And yeah, so that's the Accuracy First page inside your Kestrel. So the next thing is environment. Once you go into environment, you can hit, it's locked right now at 73 degrees. You can scroll right and go to live. Live will update your atmospherics in real time. The problem is if you leave live on for a long period of time and you have the Kestrel sitting in your pocket, it's reading your pocket temperature, not the ambient temperature of the air. So it might be telling you it's 100 degrees, but it's actually 70 degrees outside. So it's a good idea to lock it. It also is a problem if it's on live and it's sitting on the range on something black and the sun's beating on it and it's solar loading. So it's a good idea to lock it and then go live every now and again and update your atmospherics. It's also like if for, police, let's say or military, if you're in an air-conditioned building, but you're taking a shot across sub-zero temperatures or like extremely hot temperatures, you don't want that your data thinking it's 72 degrees when it's actually 110 degrees outside. So you would sample the atmosphere outside and then lock it, and that's the data you would go with. Let's see, this is all the backside temperature stuff. Range card, target card, accuracy first. Okay, back up. All right, so that's the ballistics window right there. And I think we went through it pretty quick, but all these things we've already talked about. So top left, I remember I said there was 3 modes. There's ballistics, there's easy mode. Easy mode is if you don't know how to do something, if you don't know how to calculate, to calibrate your compass, if you don't know how to set up target card, if you don't know how to calculate your muzzle velocity, this will walk you through step by step, okay? Just scrolling down on this menu window, we come down Bluetooth on or off, data port, you're probably not going to use that, memory options, graph scale, okay, display is where you put your backlight and stuff, system, compass calibration, time measurement, okay. Now, then the last one is weather mode. Now, weather mode works in the background for you at all times if you have live on. So, but if you go into it, there's tons of settings in here that you really don't need to look at. Now, this is the one people use most, and it's wind speed. So you open up your anemometer, you hold that up into the wind, and it will give you the wind speed in real time. It will not change your data, it just gives you a reading. Now, I told you earlier on that this button has a cool function where you double tap it, it'll go straight back into ballistics. And that's used for, if I'm on the range looking at ballistics and I want to get a wind reading, I just double click this and I get back to wind speed. Boom, back to here. Okay. All right, so we've, like I said earlier, you can build your gun on the Kestrel and push it to your phone, or you can build the gun on your phone and push it to your Kestrel. All right, so the Kestrel app is the Kestrel Link Ballistics app. All right, now, once you've connected it, and if you're in a class, you'll connect it by serial number. There's a lot of them around. There's a bunch of different features in here. So single target engagement, you can actually scroll up and scroll down. You can have all your data in here. Target card. So let's go with gun profile management first. Now, right here I have a bunch of guns built that I already built from before, but they're not in this Kestrel. So all I got to do is select the ones I want, and down here, send profile. So that will push all those, override them, boom. All those gun profiles that I've already built in here, it'll push it to the Kestrel, and now I have it in the Kestrel if I don't want to be using my phone on the range. So that's working right now. All right, now, if I look at my Kestrel, I come down, gun, I got my 300 Norma, my 5.56, and my 300 Win Mag. So we now have all those. Now, if we want to build a new one, we'll go to this, new profile, and then we can call that whatever we want. Okay, the bullet diameter, the bullet grain, the ballistic coefficient. Now, like I said, there's G1, G7, and custom drag model. This is where the custom drag model comes in, because instead of putting all these parameters in myself, I can just go to select from bullet library, and let's say I'm looking at 264, which is a 6.5. I'm going to shoot a burger. And I want to use the Burger Elite Hunter, 170 grain, right? Boom. So I want G1, G7 or custom. I want the custom drag model. Boom, and it pulls that in. Okay, I named it. That's the diameter. That's the grain weight. It defaults at 1 because it's proprietary information and you don't need to be changing it. The muzzle velocity I will have to still get from my chronograph or from truing, because it's all dependent on the barrel length, right? My zero range, my bore height, my zero height, my offset, my twist rate. We've talked about all these things already. elevation, mils, wind and mils. And I can save that. Okay, and then, where are you at? There it is at the bottom. I go select that one, send profiles. Now it's pushing that gun to my Kestrel. So I have it in my library on my Kestrel. Okay, so target card, you can punch in. We talked about that in the Kestrel also. If I already had a target card built in my Kestrel, I can pull it in here. So I didn't have one, but I would pull targets from Kestrel right here. Yes. Didn't come up because I didn't actually. Oh, it did. They're all the same because I just did one target. But if I had a target card, I would pull it in there. Update Kestrel latitude, connect device. Don't worry about that. This single target engagement. Once it's got the gun built, so it's got my 6.5 in here. I can change my wind speed and I can dial up and down on my wind direction and stuff. This is not working. Oh, it is. There's the range right there. I can pull up, change the range, pull back, change the range. I don't really use this feature much. Target card, gun data, settings, back. Okay, so now that's how you either build a gun in here the way I showed you by going plus, naming it custom drag or bullet library custom drag model, and then select, tag it, and then send it across. Or if I have profiles built in here, I can get profiles. And that will pull any profiles that are in here. It'll pull it back to the Kestrel. Okay, so always use the custom drag model if you can, but you will need, in order to download the app, you will need to buy the Kestrel, and it's the 5700 Elite with applied ballistics. Link it up, and like I said, it's so much easier to build a gun on the phone and push it to the Kestrel than the other way around, but it's good to see it both ways. All right, guys, that was a lot of information very quickly, but if you watch it a couple of times, watch it the first time, then follow along the second time, and it will make sense. You can't really screw this up, okay? Well, maybe you can. But even if you change the atmospheric data, you go into like barometric pressure and adjust it. As soon as you hit live, as opposed to lock on your environmentals, it'll fix it all again for you. All right. The only way you really learn this thing is get in and start messing with it. Start hitting buttons, turning things around, and figuring out what it does. It's kind of an intimidating piece of kit because it does so much. People are like, oh, I don't want to mess with that. These are fairly expensive. They're about $700, I think, but absolutely worth it. If you use the code KB, as in Kestrel Ballistics, 15 FC being Fieldcraft, you'll get 15% off, which is about $100. Pretty good discount. Kestrel recently bought Magneto Speed, which is a chronograph, and it's the chronograph I use all the time. I have more expensive ones. I don't use them. I use this one. So that code will also apply to a Magneto Speed chronograph sold by Kestrel, and then at that point you're rocking and rolling. This thing with truing, with the ballistics that are in here, what used to take weeks and weeks and weeks of gathering data, you can do now in 15 minutes. You can get all your data, and it's super accurate. All right, absolutely worth the price, whether you're a hunter or a long-range shooter. This thing is a must purchase. Okay, if you have questions, because I know I went through that pretty quickly, hit us up below, and I'll try to address them on the next episode. Okay, thank you.